Being. Pure being is the affirmation by the unknowable of itself as the free base of all cosmic existence. This is from the Life Divine. The Absolute manifests itself in two terms, a being and a becoming. The being is the fundamental reality. The becoming is an actual, sorry, the becoming is an effectual reality. It is a dynamic power and result, a creative energy and working out of the being, a constantly persistent, yet mutable form, process, outcome of its immutable, formless essence.
I believe that dynamic is the accent is on the second syllable. Dynamic,
Dynamic. Okay.
not dynamic, but dynamic.
Okay. Okay. This is also from the Life Divine. What is original and eternal, forever in the divine, is the being. What is developed in consciousness, conditions, forces, forms, etc., by the divine power is the becoming. The eternal divine is the being, the universe in time, and all that is apparent in it is a becoming. Being and becoming, one and many, are both true and are both the same thing. Being is one, becomings are many, but this simply means that all becomings are one being who places himself variously in the phenomenal movement of his consciousness.
Isn't
From the Upanishads.
Yes, it's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so powerful.
There's no differentiation.
Yeah,
It's just the way the being places himself in the movement of his own consciousness.
yeah.
So we can't separate being and becoming.
Hmm.
Even one and many we cannot separate. We are all one. Truly,
Yeah.
we're all one.
Yeah.
One great soul. Good.
Our whole apparent life has only a symbolic value and is good and necessary as a becoming. But all becoming has being for its goal and fulfillment, and God is the only being. And so he says in Essays Divine and Human. Finally, our being is a roughly constituted chaos into which we have to introduce the principle of a divine order.
Oh, how
He
beautiful.
says so in the synthesis of yoga.
Yeah, roughly constituted chaos. So presence is long, so let's begin.
Yeah. Is it okay for you to speak? Does it move and is it giving any pain or
Pain is there, but I can speak.
okay? I hope we are not. It's not a strain for you.
No.
Okay. Presence. Sri Aurobindo. It is intended by the word presence to indicate the sense and perception of the divine as a being, felt as present in one's existence and consciousness, or in relation with it, without the necessity of any further qualification or description. Thus, of the ineffable presence, it can only be said that it is there, and nothing more can or need be said about it. Although at the same time one knows that all is there, personality and impersonality, power and light and ananda, and everything else, and that all these flow from the indescribable presence. The word may be used sometimes in a less absolute sense, but that is always the fundamental significance. the essential perception of the essential presence supporting everything else in the letters of the yoga.
So I think this is maybe one of the most important words in the yoga.
Mm.
That it's the presence is the divine as a being.
Mm.
And it's present in everyone, all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Beyond mind, on spiritual and supramental levels, dwells the presence, the truth, the power, the bliss that can alone deliver us from these illusions, display the light of which our ideals are tarnished, disguises and impose the harmony that shall at once transfigure and reconcile all the parts of our nature. So this is from Essays, Divine and Human. But if we learn to live within, we infallibly awaken to this presence within us, which is our more real self, a presence profound, calm, joyous, and hyacinth. How do we say that?
Uh, I was just looking up something, and I wanted to go over it with you, but I'm not able to get this thing going. So uh, so where was transfigure? Yeah. The word is reconcile.
No, I'm reading, but if we learn to live within, we infallibly awaken to this presence within us, which is more real self, a presence profound, calm, joyous, and puissant,
Puissant.
puissant,
Puissant.
puissant,
It's a French word.
puissant.
So,
Oh, okay,
so
puissant.
let me just go back to reconcile uh, and see what we can get. Here we are. Let's see. Okay. It is reconcile.
Not reconcile. Okay, reconcile.
Not reconcile, but reconcile.
Okay,
I got it here again, I think. Let's see. Collins.
Reconcile.
That's
okay,
good. Because these things are important. We keep learning.
yes,
And I have to always go back to study British English.
yes,
Okay. Good. So this puissant is a
puissant.
power. It's a power. It means
Okay,
puissance is a power. So you
okay,
have puissant and puissance.
okay,
Here, and puissant here would be powerful, calm,
okay.
joyous, and powerful. And puissant,
Oh, okay.
French word. Huh? Okay.
Yeah. Calm, joyous, and puissant, of which the world is not the master. A presence which, if it is not the Lord Himself, is a radiation of the Lord within.
Now, that should wake us up. Huh?
Hmm.
If we learn to live within, we awaken to this presence within us. And that presence is our real self, which is profound and calm and joyous and powerful.
Hmm.
And the world is not the master.
Hmm.
Now, that presence is very important. If it is not the Lord Himself, and very often it is the Lord Himself,
Hmm.
it is the radiation of
Hmm.
the Lord within us.
Hmm.
So the Lord, or an aspect or radiation of Him, is within each soul, each body. People could realize that there would be no more wars,
Hmm.
no more anger.
Hmm.
Okay.
The true soul secret in us, subliminal, we have said, but the word is misleading. For this presence is not situated below the threshold of waking mind, but rather burns in the temple of the inmost heart, behind the thick screen of an ignorant mind, life, and body. Not subliminal, but behind the veil. This veiled, yeah,
This
this
veiled
veiled
psychic entity, yes.
This veiled psychic entity is the flame of the Godhead, always alight within us, inextinguishable, even by that dense unconsciousness of any spiritual self within which obscures our outer nature. It is a
Within
flame
which, yeah, within which
within which
obscures our outer nature, yes.
within which obscures our outer nature.
Let's just take a moment on that long sentence because it's
Yeah.
important. So, this secret soul in us is not subliminal. It's not behind or down someplace.
Hmm.
It's in the temple of the inmost heart,
Hmm.
which Sri Aurobindo says is in the center of the chest,
Hmm.
not behind the heart, but directly in the center of the chest.
Yeah.
And it is the psychic entity that is the flame of God always alight within us. And you
Hmm.
can't even extinguish it by any unconsciousness of spiritual self that obscures our outer nature. So when you see someone who is a lion whisperer or a horse whisperer, they have this contact and they touch that inner being of the animal also.
Hmm.
And that's how they do it. They
Hmm.
don't they don't even do it with words.
Yeah.
It's very important that we are constantly aware of this presence that is in us.
Hmm.
Very important. Okay.
It is a flame born out of the divine and luminous inhabitant of the ignorance, grows in it till it is able to turn it towards the knowledge. It is the concealed witness and control, the hidden guide, the
Daemon.
daemon, the daemon of Socrates, the inner light or inner voice of the mystic. It is that
Voice,
voice,
and
inner,
Socrates,
inner Soc-
Socrates.
Socrates,
Yeah, Socrates, like T at the end. Socrates.
Socrates, the inner light or inner voice of the mystic. It is that which endures and is imperishable in us from birth to birth, untouched by death, decay, or corruption, and indestructible and an indestructible spark of the divine.
So it's very interesting that even in demonic people,
Yeah.
it is imperishable,
Hmm.
birth to birth, not touched by decay or by death or even by corruption, he says. Your
Hmm.
corruption, because it is an indestructible spark of the
Hmm.
divine.
Hmm.
And so in Indian uh, philosophy and spiritual thinking, we're always told to keep the flame lit, burning on the little temple or whatever you want to call it within the heart.
Yeah.
Keep it always burning. Good. Okay.
If we need any personal and inner witness to this indivisible all consciousness behind the ignorance, all nature is its external proof. We can get it with any completeness only in our deeper inner being, or larger and higher spiritual state when we draw back behind the veil of our own surface ignorance and come into contact with the divine idea and will behind it. Then we see clearly enough that what we have done by ourselves in our ignorance was yet overseen and guided in its result by the invisible omniscience. We discover a greater working behind our ignorant working and begin to glimpse its purpose in us. Then only can we see and know what now we worship in faith, recognize wholly the pure and universal presence, meet the Lord of the being, meet the Lord of all being and all nature.
The people who see the divine or they see visions in nature of such beauty have opened to that.
Mm.
There are many of them. There are Sister Wendy. If you can look up Sister Wendy,
Okay,
she's a Catholic nun, sort of
okay,
a big, fat, dumpy nun, and she is the most brilliant ex- explainer of art, of
okay,
all art in the world.
okay.
And it's amazing. It may be on something like one of the, one of the channels. You might find it, Sister
Yeah,
Wendy.
yeah.
Okay, carry on.
The presence of the Spirit is there in every living being, on every level, in all things. And because it is there, the experience of Satchitananda, of the pure spiritual existence and consciousness, of the delight of a divine presence, closeness, contact can be acquired through the mind or the heart or the life sense or even through the physical or the life sense or even through the physical consciousness. If the inner doors are flung sufficiently open, the light from the sanctuary can suffuse the nearest and the farthest chambers of the outer being.
Oh,
It's very beautiful.
yes.
There is a secret divine will, eternal and infinite, omniscient and omnipotent, that expresses itself in the universality, and in each particular of all these apparently temporal and finite inconscient or half conscient things. This is the power or presence meant by the Gita when it speaks of the Lord within the heart of all existence, who turns all creatures as if mounted on a machine by the illusion of nature. For what yoga searches after is not truth of thought alone or truth of mind alone, but the dynamic truth of a living and revealing spiritual experience. There must awake in us a constant indwelling and enveloping nearness, a vivid perception, a close feeling and communion, a concrete sense and contact of a true and infinite presence, always and everywhere. That presence must remain with us as the living, pervading reality in which we and all things exist and move and act, and we must feel it always and everywhere, concrete, visible, inhabiting all things. It must be patent to us as their true self, tangible as their imperishable essence, met by us closely as their inmost spirit, to see, to feel, to sense, to contact in every way and not merely to conceive this self in spirit here in all existences, and to feel with the same vividness all existences in the self and spirit is the fundamental experience which must englobe all other knowledge. I think with that, I kind of received a beautiful answer to one of the questions I was holding in terms of shaping my yoga or the search, or like, because something like, what, even in the yoga or even in my inner seeking, there is a question of like, what is it that do I seek? Or, of course, we have all of the representations we have. Um, but there has been a question for me like somewhere within like, and still what this kind of answers me uh, in many ways to just, and not just this, I think overall this entire passage, like the entire thing we have read, kind of given me a lot of answers.
Well,
So
you see, the answer is that you are seeking the divine being who lives within you.
yeah,
And there was that story that Satprem starts in The Adventure of Consciousness. He says that this man went all over India and he asked everyone, "Have you found God? Have you found God?"
yeah,
And then one day he said, "Oh my God, he's within me." He didn't have to ask the question anymore.
yeah,
So it's that presence, that divine within us that we have to open to.
yeah,
And Sri Aurobindo says, we have to really throw the doors open, widely open, fling them, he says, fling the
yeah,
doors open.
yeah, yeah,
But in Savitri, towards the end, he says, um, if the chamber's door is even a little ajar,
yeah,
who then can prevent the Lord from stealing in, or who forbid his kiss on
yeah,
the sleeping soul?
yeah.
So in the beginning, maybe it's only a crack open, and then it opens more and more. Okay, read the next. We're almost at our time.
Yeah, exactly. I was also thinking, wow. So one must have faith in the master of our life and works, even if for a long time he conceals himself, and then, in his own right time, he will reveal his presence. They, the psychic being and the divine presence in the heart, are quite different. The psychic being is one's own individual soul being. It is not the divine, though it has come from the divine and develops towards the divine. For it is quietness and inwardness that enable one to feel the presence. Beyond mind, on spiritual and supramental levels, dwells the presence. I think we have already read that one. It was somewhere there before, but I'll anyways read. Beyond mind, on spiritual and supramental levels, dwells the presence, the truth, the power, the bliss that can alone deliver us from these illusions, display the light of which our ideals are tarnished, disguises and impose the harmony that shall at once transfigure and reconcile all the parts of our nature.
Reconcile.
Reconcile. Yeah, I was just thinking like, how to reconcile.
Yeah, we had read that one. That was the second one I had listed, so it was a
Yeah.
duplication. Now the mother, just the mother.
For in human beings, here is a presence, the most marvelous presence on earth, and except in a few rare cases, which I need not mention here, this presence lies asleep in the heart, not in the physical heart, but the psychic center of all beings. And when the splendor is manifested with enough purity, it will awaken in all beings the echo of His presence.
So marvelous. And look at that, we're at 10 o'clock. My time, I mean, just perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
So glad you read it. Remember now that word,
Reconcile.
reconcile, yes.
Reconcile.
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 Wonderful. So good to see you.
Same here. Thank you so much. And I wish you a speedy recovery and may the healing happen with her presence much faster. And I
Okay.
see you in full good health on Monday.
Okay. Wonderful.